What I get out of sport was just that passion and love for getting better every day. And it wasn't about anybody else trying to capitalize on my talent or me trying to professionalize my talents in any way to make more money. It was about me just doing what I love to do.
And I loved how sport made me feel. I felt strong. It made me feel like I could do almost anything.
On camera, a brawl breaks out during a student basketball game in Georgia.
The children are watching, the children are sponges, the children are becoming what they see.
Now you're telling your son or your daughter to go out and work on your jump shot, or go out and work on your batting swing, or go work on your pitch, as opposed to go outside and play.
What gets measured matters. So what do we measure in the youth sport experience? Schedule, standings. So we're reinforcing that's all that matters, that's all we measure. So do we measure confidence? Do we measure development? Do we measure character?
Because it's very difficult to get to the upper levels of competition if the whole process is not fun. Eventually, people will just pack it in.
My opinion is sport is any athletic game played in a competitive environment that both parties are passionate and excited to be involved in. Unfortunately, right now, I'd say in our country and many countries, the expected outcome is a win and a loss. And that's how success is viewed. Success in sport right now is viewed of winning and losing. An interesting thing in the United States is we're dominating at the Olympic level in the summer sports. We're doing great in the winter sports. We're putting more Americans on the podium than we've had in the past. And the lead sport is great. But the interesting thing is coming up the pathway has become a big eye-opener for us. Over the past 5 years, we've seen that the number of athletes involved in sport at the youth level is diminishing very quickly. So if we continue on the way we are currently right now, the negative impact is we're going to lose medals, we're going to lose money, and we're going to lose members. We haven't asked those kids what really matters to them and match the science, match the education, and match just the passion with what kids really care about to get them staying on that pathway to excellence. That's what we haven't done.
I play soccer because it's fun and I like how my team is super positive.
How does it make you feel when you play your sports?
It makes me feel not so shy, and it makes me feel like happy.
Soccer for me was about my identity as a kid. You know, I got success playing the game. I was competent at it from a young age. There was just something about kicking a ball that felt right to me. And I was a multi-sport athlete. I played multiple sports as a kid growing up. Everything that I could get my hands on or kick with my foot, I was doing it.
There's DeVos. Score!
I think we have to remove that external pressure on kids to succeed. And that's an adult term, is because what is success in youth sports? You know, for a child, success is we have fun. You know, we get to play with our friends, and we get to compete. And I often think that kids have figured this out much better than we have as adults. You know, and a colleague of mine calls it the adultification of youth sports, where we've taken an adult competition model, superimposed it onto kids soccer, and said, okay, we've got to put the best kids on a team together and compete against other kids to crown a champion. But is that really what the kids want? I think that's what the adults want, but I don't think that's what the kids want. So we've got to change the metrics by which we evaluate success in youth soccer and in youth sports, and make it about what the kids want.
Here in New Zealand, we're a small connected community, 4 million people, and we like to pride ourselves on that. However, there are a few challenges starting to creep in regard to participation. So we have pretty good participation levels compared to other nations around the world, but we're starting to see things start to slide a little bit. We're seeing declines in participation levels in sport and physical activity. We're starting to see sports struggle to adapt what they deliver to the changing environment we live in, with technology, with different ethnicities, with the pace of life. We know that child's development is non-linear. It's complex. Every individual develops at different rates. Yet we put systems in place within our sports system that treats athletes and people like they all develop evenly at the same time.
My name is Claes Brede Bråten. I'm today a sport director of ski jumping in Norway. I have been in this sport my whole life. We are facing early specialization in different sport, which is kind of limiting the young athletes' possibility to take out the maximum of their capacity. And the reason for this, I would say, is the lack of competence or knowledge among the coaches, teachers, and the system all over. We are working hard, but we are not able to make this run fast enough.
The sport landscape has changed dramatically from the sport landscape that I grew up in. I would say one of the biggest changes has been the multi-sport athlete and maybe the death of the multi-sport athlete. There's been a real decline in, I think, some families' ability to be able to sustain that model, because the way that sports are designed, whether they're almost run as a semi-professional business, kids are being forced and families are deciding to choose to have their kids specialize in one avenue earlier and earlier. And so on the psychology side, in our field of sports psychology, we're seeing higher rates of burnout. Can we reinstate the idea of seasons and the seasonality of sport? It used to be that we actually had season. You had your winter season, spring, summer, fall, and it was easier to navigate for a parent. But today the seasons have disappeared.
In my personal opinion, when I was growing up, that's what we did. We played everything. We played baseball, we played soccer. It wasn't organized, but it gave our body ability to move in different space. So when we started to specialize in our sport as we got older, that our body can muscle memory go back to those spaces. If we ever got in a position that we needed to get into, we can get out of it because we had already taught our body how to do that. And we're not doing enough of that early on in our kids' lives now. We need to start to kind of back the focus off and just let kids be kids.
I think we need to make it fun and engaging, bring sports to where the kids are, and really listen to them on what they want within sport. So if you think of studies that are done, they're not talking about winning. They're talking, what do they want out of sport? Fun with their friends, challenging atmosphere. Winning is way down that list. So let's give the kids what they want. I mean, really, they're the consumers, and let's educate the parents on that winning at a young age doesn't matter. We know from the U.S. Olympic Committee that 96% of sort of youth group age winners don't go on to win the gold medal or play professional sports. So really, winning at a young age doesn't matter.
Keep coming out to the golf course. Know you come to talk to me at any time, okay? Glaciers on 3. 1, 2, 3, Glaciers!
We have thousands of stories of kids who are being pushed in directions that maybe it's not for them to be pushed into. It's not their own desire. It's not what they're really interested in, but it's the wishes and the intention of somebody else, often a parent, or some other person who has influence on that child's life, who's pushing them in a way and into directions that really isn't that child's direction to begin with. And so to understand which kid can be pushed, which kid from a very early age can be pushed to that extent, and which kids cannot be pushed, that I think is where the art of being a parent, the art of coaching comes in. And I think what it really comes down to at that age, one of the most important things we do at that age is we're developing our own identity. We're learning about the world. We're learning about ourselves.
I think a lot of parents are going into it thinking scholarship. You know, there's a financial, hey, I'm investing here with this club or with this team, and I expect a scholarship at the other end of it. And so I think that really muddies the waters.
Sports is supposed to be fun. You know, sport is supposed to be something that you're passionate about and you enjoy. You know, it's amazing to me that we've shifted it to work. You know, at the Ohio State University, we have 36 sports, about 1,000 athletes, and we're getting somewhere around 200 new athletes every single year. So the challenge now is how they come to us. We're starting to see trends that concern us.
I talked to some of these kids and they said it's like a death in their family when they lose at 14 years old. Some of these top kids that were top 5 in the country, top 6 in the country, it was like everything was okay, you know, if I won the match, but, you know, if I lost the match, you know, the ride home, nobody would talk, and we'd get to the hotel and we'd sit there and parents would be devastated, and, you know, they've described it as death in the family. Is it their dream? Is it the parents' dream? It's, you know, it's tough to say. Is, you know, a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old kid has a dream to be a professional tennis player, a professional soccer player. You know, I feel bad for some of these kids.
When you're 8 years old, if you're doing algebra, well, by the time you're 13, you better be doing calculus, so there's no more school for you. There's no more programs. We would never let that happen in school, but we're allowing it to happen in sports, where we've got caught up in this 2 to 5% strategy that we're forcing on all of the hockey community or sports community. When you start to ask the questions, what is it about sports that you love the most? Kids will say, playing with my friends. You know, the winning is like way down. And I'm not saying that winning shouldn't be a part of it. I'm not saying elite sports shouldn't be a part of it. We just need to rise up other levels, and we all need to treat each level and organization equally and not put a spotlight on something that's really hard to obtain, but yet gives you so much value in all these other areas. If we can start to create that shift, and I think it's doable and it's important, because my greatest fear is that if we don't give that experience to not only the families and the kids, there's that vehicle when we're losing 70% of all 13-year-olds in all sports. What's scary to me is those extra years of playing a sport and getting the value out of it, how that shapes their lives. It would be almost saying that 70% of kids are dropping out of school at 13.
In the early days, there was no pressure. It was all about having fun. There was no coaches yelling at you, no parents yelling at you. It was all just you out there having fun.
So what is fun? How do you define fun? What's fun to you?
Fun is when you're meeting new people, you're having fun on the ice by skating around, getting the pass, smiling on the ice, not being down at yourself, because it's not competitive. It's all just fun. When I started when I was about age 5 in Adam Hockey, there was 15 guys there that I grew up with playing hockey with just to start. And now I can say there's only one that I know of that is still currently playing hockey at a high competitive level. I've seen kids after every game, every time they leave the locker room, they kind of have a look on their face like they don't want to go somewhere or something bad's about to happen. And then they show up the next day and they're just not happy. They don't want to be there. They're not having fun. They're not in sync with the team, which makes it worse. And every game you see their parents looking at them from the stands, yelling at them. And over time, it just wore them down so much that they just didn't want to be there anymore.
I feel like in elementary school, this is our big opportunity to set these kids up for a love of movement, a love of physical activity, a love of sport, and a love of healthy living. Originally, I wanted to become a PE teacher because I just loved sport. Like, it's been a part of my life all the way growing up. And I thought, what a wonderful way to share that with kids. But it's changed so much recently. I've realized that I really want to foster this love of learning through moving your body, being a good sport, working together. And so my philosophy of the PE program is to kind of get away from like the organized sports where you're playing to win. It's more of just developing some of those fundamental movement skills. I would hate to see kids just close off from the world of sport because of a bad experience. So I know I don't want to raise a snowflake generation that can't handle failure, but I think we really need to be aware of the kids' emotional level at whatever age they're at, and maybe give them a lot of guidance around why we're doing sport and why they're there, but then be really careful that we're not pushing the competition and to be the best, and focusing more on what you're able to do and how you're going to be a good person and doing your best.
Every child needs a repertoire of movements that they can do competently. And we don't deliver on that right now. And if you can't do movements well, you can't progress in life, just like any of the other skill-based literacies. We need physical literacy to be on the same footing in the curriculum as literacy and numeracy.
My biggest goal for my kid is that he's still playing sports when he's 40, when he's 50, and he still enjoys it. But right now, I don't know how realistic it is for my kid to do 2 sports with the demands they have and the seasons, especially if he's playing at a high level. Right? And once your kids start playing at a high level, they're forcing kids at a young age to make choices.
If I'm going to sign my kid up for a youth sport experience, I have what information or tools do we give the parent to make an informed choice? Is this going to be a good experience for my kid? If we gave tools to parents, even a simple checklist, hey, these are questions you should ask the director of that league. These are questions you should ask that coach. When you first meet them, in terms of, you know, what's your approach to playing time? What's your approach to building team cohesion and building confidence with the kids? And so if nothing else, it changes the dialogue, it gives us a common language, and you get more of us talking about the things that really matter and reinforcing why we're doing this.
Based on our experience, I mean, there are teachers, instructors, coaches, they have training, and so they know how to get the best out of the child. There's other situations where, you know, that can be in question, but I think it's almost an education for parents to understand that, you know, you put your child in this activity and there is a certain structure to it, and to understand what you've put them in, what is expected, and just that trust of, you know, that the instructor and coach know what they're doing and how to get best out of your child.
I built very good relationships with coaches so that I could go to them and say, this is happening, is this something that's going to affect her game or what's coming up for her, and we could talk it through. So building those relationships with the coaches that she works with made a big difference for me.
That would be one thing that I would tell a parent to do. Walk up at the beginning and ask the coach, what can I expect? Okay, and what can I do to either help you or help the kids have a better experience? And then see what the coach says.
When it first started to, let's say, get serious, when rep started to reel its ugly head, the coaching gets more serious and the idea of winning kind of takes over the idea of development and fun. At least back then, that was kind of my thoughts on it anyways. One day after a ball game, I believe it was, I wasn't overly happy about the way my oldest daughter, Abigail, had performed. Looking back now, I know it's not up to me on whether or not I liked the way she played or I was happy with the way she played. It was about the way she played or how she felt about it. It got, I started to get right into a ramble, and I could just see the look on her face that this conversation wasn't fun. And if I continued this conversation the way it goes, I'm probably going to end up pulling a sport that she likes away from her because she won't want to have these rides home like this anymore.
It's too important for our culture. It's too important for society. Sports plays a massive role, and everybody has to keep trying and chipping away, and there is an opportunity and a solution to shift that culture. It's there. We were there once before, and it can be done. For people who say it's impossible, the impossible is possible, and it's getting back to, once again, defining who we are, what our roles are, what's our identity, what are our values, and really, for each stakeholder, what is that value proposition? Because people aren't going to shift behavior until they see value. And the hope is that everybody will see value in that sports experience that will live long after we're done playing sports and we're passing it on to the next generation.
I think the key that you want is to be able to have people in power positions that are going to do the right thing. And that's not only in sports. It should be in business, entertainment, in politics, in education, in everything. Because you can't just legislate and have rules and think that that's going to fix the system. You need good people that will say, hey, we got to change this. How do you do it? And it becomes just a big upswell of people doing the right thing.
And so it is with a great amount of shame that I stand before you and tell you that I have betrayed your trust.
Global governing body of cycling has just announced moments ago it will ban Armstrong for life.
Today, we announce charges of fraud and corruption in the world of college basketball.
The Russian Olympic Committee is suspended with immediate effect.
Bulgarians voted no!